This is Wide Angle with Ashok Vyas. Namaskar, I'm Ashok Vyas, and today's Wide Angle have two sections. In the first one, we have glimpses of an interesting and enlightening personality. When I say glimpses, we'll just be talking to him briefly today, but there'll be an extended conversation with this gentleman who is Gadadhar Pandit Dasa, author of this book, which is Urban Monk. And he's Hindu chaplain, the first one at Columbia University. Was featured on a PBS documentary related to Bhagavad Gita. There is so much about him which makes me happy and proud to welcome him to our studio. Namaskar.
Namaste, thank you very much.
Gadadharji, today we want to know about your previous roop before becoming a monk, and share with us especially that which kind of led you towards adopting this lifestyle.
Well, I grew up in Los Angeles, California in the early 80s, and one of the first things my parents did when they came to this country was trying to figure out how to make a living and how to survive. They would set up a booth and sell gift items at Venice Beach. So across from where they would do that, there were some basketball courts. And so I grew up kind of first couple of years in this country at Venice Beach, playing basketball and listening to soul music, funk music, hip hop music, rap. So that was my initial upbringing, starting from the age of 8, 9, 10. And most of the time, wherever we lived in LA, for whatever reason, we were never really close to the Indian or Hindu community. So I grew up most of the time, 95% of the time, I was just surrounded by Western people, American people. There was no Hindu temples around, no Hindu restaurants.
So was there any identity, call it conflict or crisis from that point of view? And was there enough exposure for you about Hinduism or about religion or about spiritual practices at home?
At home, fortunately, there was some exposure to Hindu practices because my parents, fortunately, had a little altar, and every day they would do some puja, offer incense, offer flower to the gods, and do some meditation, do some mantra, japa. And so being a child, I just followed what they did. And I did feel a connection to God, doing the same rituals that they did. However, there were no Hindu temples around us. So I don't ever really remember going to any temples for my entire youth. And so because of that, there naturally was some identity conflict because I couldn't talk about my Hindu culture, Hindu faith, or just Indian tradition in general with my friends at school because they were all Americans. And there would be such a gap that you could become the object of ridicule. And so to avoid becoming an object of ridicule, that would naturally keep the differences at a distance.
So now here comes an important question. As a child, sometimes we start visualizing, oh, this is what I'm going to be when I grow up. I'll be a pilot, a film actor, engineer, doctor, something like that. So from that point of view, was there any specific ambition as a child in you? And I'm sure it wasn't the one of becoming a monk.
I think I didn't even know what a monk was. I don't even think I knew what the word meant. So that was the last thing on my mind of becoming a monk. And I didn't have some grand expectations of becoming anything huge. I thought I would take over my parents' jewelry business. My father had a very successful multi-million-dollar jewelry business. And I just assumed and figured that I'm an only child and that that's probably what I would do. And it's not that I was very ambitious to do that, but you have this in front of you, why pass it up? So that's kind of what I was expected to do by my parents, and which I thought I would ultimately just adopt into my life.
And later on, as I have read part of your book, and you have been through, call it a lot of ups and downs of lives in terms of financial situation in terms of being uprooted from one place to another, then again being uprooted, etc. Share with us how that affected you as you were growing up and trying to make sense of it all.
You know, being uprooted at least 3 or 4 major times in my life. You know, from India, we moved here when I was 7 to America, to Los Angeles. My dad built up a wonderful business, then we lost everything. Our house, our cars, our money, everything. And we decided to move to East Europe to see if we can reestablish something. When we were getting settled there, then we moved again to the East Coast of America. And not having any family or friends in any of these locations, it was like starting all over again. So the life definitely has been a bit of a roller coaster, and I know I've learned a lot through through the roller coaster. And one major thing that I think I learned was that one of the main teachings of the Bhagavad Gita is how life is very temporary, and everything in life that we have is temporary. And we spend a lot of time in our lives becoming attached and holding on to things. But holding on to things is like trying to hold on to water in your hands. How long can you really hold on to water? And we live in this sort of illusion that the things I have now will be with me forever. No one can take them away. Nothing will distance them from me. But as we inevitably see, one thing after another, you know, we move on after high school to college, leave our family behind, we move away from our family. Our friends in college or in high school are no longer there in college, and friends in college are no longer there when we move on. So the only constant thing in life is change, and we experience that on a daily basis. Yet, we still try to hold on to everything as much as we can.
Trying to hold on is the only way that we have learned to kind of consider as a continuity of the perceived identity that we have. And anything that shakes this sense of stability makes us feel insecure inside also.
Sure.
So I go back to that particular age, which is very interesting, and that is 16. So when you turned 16, you were gifted a car.
Yes.
Now, how was the feeling at the time when a child at 16 is given a car, and then a day comes when it is taken away?
Well, you know, we lived in this very lavish house on the hills of Glendale, California, and there was no way to get down without a car. And if you lived in LA, if you know anything about LA, then you know you're kind of useless unless you have a car. You can't get anywhere. So I was very eager for a car. Plus in LA, it's a status symbol. You got to have a nice car. And so I was given a brand new car. Only 2 students in my high school had a brand new car at 16, and I was one of them. And so that was my identity. You drive up to school, you know, your friends are going to recognize you. You make sure the music is turned up a little extra loud so everybody can hear it. They know that, oh, he's coming. You know, you just make sure that the windows are down, everybody can hear, everybody can see. You know, and in high school, your identity is so important. You're really trying to get that recognition and appreciation and some kind of exclusive identity for yourself. So obviously, it felt wonderful to have a car, and I would give my friends rides in my car, and it was a wonderful experience to have that. And then, of course, within a year, right from the school parking lot, it was stolen.
Oh man!
Right from and it was so confusing, so embarrassing, and such a difficult time. I still remember walking to my school had 2 parking lots. I went to one parking lot, and I didn't see it, so I knew I had parked it there. But just to make myself feel better, I walked to the other parking lot, hoping somehow maybe I parked it there. When I didn't see it anyways, then I saw some broken glass, thinking, oh wow, my car is gone. And then ultimately it was completely stripped down, and there was nothing remaining. So it was really my first experience of losing, it was one of my first experiences of losing a major possession. It was very difficult, obviously.
So now let's connect with the urban monk, Gadadhar, Pandit Dasa ji. So what would you tell to a child at that age if he loses something or he breaks something? It's very difficult to accept the fact that which was there, a source of your satisfaction, yes, contentment, joy, is just not there.
Well, the thing is that ideally you don't want to tell them at that time. The ideal thing is for this to be inculcated into their early childhood education. Right? Giving spiritual knowledge to children from an early age is very important. Within India, I hear a lot of people saying, oh, do that when you're older. Why? Why? Is that the only time we're going to suffer? We go through stuff all through life. So if a child is aware of the nature of the world and how things happen, how things come and go, the Bhagavad Gita says it beautifully, just as the seasons change in the year, things come and go in our life. Happiness comes and goes. Distress comes and goes. So ultimately, if we're educated from childhood about the nature of the world and the temporary nature of things, and to be grateful for what has come and be grateful for what has gone, because even when those things go, then we learn a lot about ourselves, our attachments, and how much those things impacted us. If we're taught this not that it'll necessarily make the pain go away, but I think it'll make the pain, you can with your intelligence deal with the pain a little bit better. You're more equipped to deal with that difficulty than if all of a sudden, because if you've never heard that, it'll help a little, but you're just thinking about the thing that you lost. Whereas if you have some tools already, if a storm is going to come, if you've prepared in advance, you're more equipped. The storm's still coming, it'll still do its damage, but you're more prepared. Yeah.
So in order to be prepared, what is it that we can do? Gadadhar Pandit Dasa ji shares that while he talks to people who have set of concerns in person, and also a lot of that comes to us through this book, Urban Monk. I must read, I must say, and there is so much to know about him. This is an autobiographical spiritual book, so it makes an interesting read as well as helps us in making a sense of it all. So we'll have an extended conversation with Pandit Gadadhar Dasi. Again, I appreciate his presence here and thank him for being with us. And in the next part of today's Wide Angle, we are going to be meeting to a young filmmaker who is trying or who has tried to make a sense of all the diverse side of our lives as an immigrant in America. So wait for that right after this short break. Once again, thank you.
Thank you very much.
This is Wide Angle with Ashok Vyas.